Hello to all my friends. I am a true believer of the totality of Thales, and today, October 7th, 2025, I am serving you with Bitcoin analysis with the Thales Market Screener tool. Please note that these analyses have an educational aspect, and the manual that you use to take an English position in the market is your own responsibility. Well, we are in the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, the price movement upward occurred in my upper zone. It slightly crossed the zone and seriously crossed the 126 divisor. Then the movement downward that we expected has happened so far. It is still not the target that we set with Flechstein. This is the 123-point arc, 2/5, but on that path there is a driver arrow structure here. We can imagine that it is doubtful that it is in contact with an important zone. This important zone can also be a historical absurdity for us, and also this trend line that is at the top of this series is doubtful. This line that we drew in the wheat can be our important point, and in dealing with this set we can see here a driver arrow, that its tip can be a move in the night towards the foot and the agra to this ARS, and the price is still seen in the 4-hour chart. If you go to the daily chart, you can see that the ARS is still far from the muffin, and you can see that the ARS is rotating towards the foot, and here you can see today's candle. Today's candle is also a bullish one that Diaz himself has closed for 10 hours. Now it has taken the shape of a scepter, which can also be a real sign that in the coming days we will come a little lower, and if you go to the weekly chart you can see that the weekly candle has also turned towards the bullish one and has replaced itself. If in the daily chart, if in the coming days we have a move towards the foot, then this candle can also be dominated by a bullish one like a shooting star. Remember this one. We are doing a scenario today that everyone can agree on the possibilities in reality, and then in the weekly time frame, but 4 to 5 days later, we will have a forecast here that will bring the price down a little bit, and this gap and a little bit of a fill. Well, let's go to the real market screener and see what results we will see there. From the beginning of today, October 7th, until these moments that we are doing, we are considering incoming transactions. For the expiration date of October 8th, tomorrow, in the data, I have 3,931 bitcoins in real terms, and this result has remained the same. That is, in the form of a bullish trend that we are looking at, there are two possible directions for it to go down, but this direction is down to 5,900. In reality, it has entered profit downwards. I am still a very low number. I am not expecting this for tomorrow. We are going to zoom in on this number a little bit. This is how we should look at it objectively. In reality, we can also see here is 3,500. If I go up, I will enter the profit, so we still have to inozumu, that is, this is how it looks in reality. In my opinion, we can have this kind of picture for tomorrow. That is, if something like a short strangle, you see a range of 124 to 125, the profit limit for tomorrow, and the price wants to be in this range to get a premium. If you go to the processed database, you will see this situation again processed. Here we also have a structural line. You see the profit margin of 124,000 at 523. Above, 125 is also not enough in this range. We want, of course, here until the lead series has gone up to 120. This is the difference with the real database, that here, with the lead series, we went up to 120,000. This level of 120,000 can still be available, and it seems reasonable to expect. If we look at the slider, in recent transactions, this gap is showing itself more often, 121,500 to 125,300, which we can have in the raw database. Look at the slider. You can see that the gap can go up to 126 again. So, let's go to the first person. We will actually have a gap. Let's go. Enter the indicator and draw its lines. Well, you will see the intersection of the two buyer and seller curves in the database. On the upside, the intersection point between the buyer and seller is 126,100. On the downside, the intersection point is 122,300. It is also slightly closer to the upside, but both are very much in the red. In fact, we cannot see any difference. And both of them are in the zone where the curves intersect the top line. Both of them are actually the point of disagreement between the buyer and seller because here, the seller is a bullish one. He doesn't want 126, but the buyer is a bullish one. He wants 126,300. And here, in my case, there is a bullish seller. He doesn't want 126,300, but the buyer is a bullish one. He wants 121,800. So, in this case, maybe we can imagine the same volatility that we saw at the first glance at the curve. For this reason, we will enter the agreement point into the indicator and continue. You can see that compared to yesterday, my bullish and bearish bands have moved towards bullish, especially the band between us, meaning the band between us has moved towards bullish. My bottom has moved towards bullish more sharply, and it is ridiculous, but it has made a gentler move towards bullish. Enough of this two-band green movement that we are seeing is towards bullish. Interpretation and explanation of this two-band movement in our bands towards bullish. Well, I will take these from the chart and go to immortalize them in my own zones. You are observing the zones. The movement of the zones towards Bella, especially the lower zone, has become less valuable than before. It has also moved towards Bella. The Bella zone has become like this. You can see how much Bella zone has become like this. But this is actually outside the time when these transactions that we filtered were included in our calculations. That is, the 4-hour candles that you counted reached the beginning and end of the transactions. The beginning and end of the transactions are almost 10 times apart. For this high that is happening, this expectation of Bella's agreement is around 126 and, for example, 150. So we can witness this high until we reach the point where we did not expect it. That is, we go for another one until we see it inside this zone. Of course, it depends. This is a possibility. For example, this 4-hour candle is now 2 hours old. If it turns into a profit, it is a signal to continue moving downwards. But keep in mind that we can interpret this interpretation that we made for another one. Despite this absurdity, we can still place this arrow below the daily trend line, around 122 Davis 122, and expect a downward movement, and with the execution that is seen here between the RSI and the price, well, good, we are going to see if the data is processed and the shape of the intersection of our curves changes, which is not much different here. The only difference is that in the process direction, the downward trend is more significant than the tree, since we have crossed below 122, and this crossing has fallen to the point of intersection almost directly above the top line, which is very, very close to the high point, which is 125, 912, and 126. Therefore, we really have a downward trend. We see that this is the most likely trend that the trend will go downward. I will go to the data, and I will return the short contracts here. Let's have the main shape and delta gamma is good. If we look at delta and gamma, we are now moving downwards, which means we have entered a phase where we are going to ossify delta with a decrease in price. We are going to see a put sale, which means we have seen a real bottom up to 121.77 and 122.22. We have seen a bottom up to about 122.22. Anywhere from this bottom, the price can find support and be supported. Why is it that we are looking at a real bottom here? From 127 to 127, we have a move up. Delta moved very strongly up to 123.34.34. The same conversation that was held yesterday was that we probably want to see a bottom here, which could be 122. Knew this could be an idea that we can get from this curve. In fact, that you see here a gamma, a negative gamma, a short for the ticker 70 and 24 gamma, which is very close in fact. So if we want to draw here 70 and 24 and 5 gamma, we have a gamma for the maker almost here where we are for the maker. We turn green. In fact, gamma is going to be long and 2 gammas a long for the ticker, also 1 on 70 and 30. We have 70 and 31 and 1 also. Very in fact, gamma is very in fact a very concentrated in fact NS for good on a good 70 and 17 good. So we will draw together this gamma that we drew. Let's go to more CI. If I add the 9th cent, I add the 9th October to this situation, each side more themselves. This part of the curve that actually entered the profit on the left side, you see that you get more promise. This bearish logger will take a bit more promise. If I take the 8th, then both sides of the curves will be in the negative direction, but the western side will show more. For the last one below 122, the 122nd divisor has been seen in profit. You can see how high and how deep the delta has entered the loss zone, and it shows that the amount of puts is higher. And that is what we saw for the next 2 days. There are weapons to the western side. Let's consider today's goods for the 10th. We reviewed yesterday's goods for the 10th. You saw yesterday's goods for the 10th. You saw the 10th octopi on Friday, which was very clear. Now it is in this state. In fact, it is going more in this direction. There is a bottom here from about 124 divisor. 120 here is unchanged. With the price decrease, it does not change. Again, from 120 to about 120, we have a sharp decline here, which is a sign of a sell-off. And that we might be a floor from that side from here to the side of the valley. You can see that we have a 124 with the price of the price here. That is, we have a sale from the price to the system of the militia open until Friday. We expect to see this floor, and then it will probably be clearer to you if we think about the history of October. So from October, we take the goods from the previous Friday for Friday. You see a situation of a night sale of a sale of a night. Sale that we have reached the stage of the fact that your heart has reached its end, and we can go back and look at that floor that we are making from the floor and see the price of a floor, and then probably everyone will start to go back to the top. Let's go back to the 8th and the date when we put the goods from the 7th from this very good day. 3,931 bitcoins. Let's look at the goods. From the end of 2,100, he bought the 981 call, which he bought, the put, which he bought, the amount of the goods. Where is the limit? The limit is very close to it. It is 125 and 500 in profit, which we are now in. In fact, we are participating very close. So in fact, this profitable move, we can say that there is a correction in these goods. It is the correction in these goods that is happening, and where are the puts? The puts were also less. 122,800 is lower. 122,800 is in profit, which we see in this bearish leg. Because I said, If we actually run the candles from this hour, then the last 1, 2, and 34th is around this candle. Our trades are our trades and we entered the market. So we can consider this downward part of this downward chain as, in fact, the part of these puts is likely to be 122,800. We were in profit with the bottom. We have come to 123,600, so we can continue this path down to 122,600. This is the same low zone. We have also checked the chart and said that we have not reached 125,500. How far has this candle come to 125? In fact, this has also been realized to some extent. I say this candle is very important. This candle is that if we are in the 4-hour chart, we cannot expect this movement to continue downwards. If our amount is still here and we can see that the bottom has not been realized yet, how can sellers bid from this number of sellers 1,800, which is 958 to 860? The sale of the goods is not good, but the sales are more, which means that in the profitable movement that we are in, this profitable movement has become difficult to achieve. 125 minus 100. This is the seller. 125 minus 100. It's hard to see here until we see it. We came to 125 minus 168 on this candlestick. The seller's opinion was confirmed. Now let's go down. Where do we want to see? You don't want 125 minus 400. 125 minus 300. That is, up to now, a round or a pinner. Just like we saw the buyers saw it up to 122 minus 600. Now, let's come to the bottom zone. This is always the case. In fact, we calculated a scenario with the method. The buyers will come back round. I know, and I won't refresh it. Let's go to the data that has been processed. We said that there is a situation similar to a selling price here. See all this situation that the price is going to fall and our delta is going to rise and fall. That is, instead of here, the price wants to see the bottom. This is 120 minus 300 first here. If you see the delta, it's gone, you can change it here. Here, 120 minus 300, think 121. Well, the data is processed. 1,026 Bitcoin. Well, this negative interest number is not the same. So we can filter the size and see what we have in the high size. Think Bitcoin 28 transactions, 20 Bitcoin 19 transactions. Let's examine this here. It's interesting to see the high attack transactions in the data is processed. 25. See, 20 Bitcoin up. The 20 Bitcoin up transactions are completely new. Now we've reached a low. Here, you see, it's down a level to about 120 minus 300, which we said was unchanged. After that, with the price of the delta, it becomes new, which does not indicate that the purchase is new. There are usually two-way transactions here. There are several strategies that we will examine. These two blocks are your blocks. One is actually a long strangle. Expectations of the rise of the Nosen at the top go up 100 minus 200 800 at the bottom go down 100 minus 200 800. A pure strategy in the market direction cannot really be recognized because of this, and China strategy chooses this, and this is a long strangle with 50 minus 200. This again in the same way, almost the same number as we said this, and again 2 again long. Strangle again the same number of 7 126 Sha. 800 down, also 121 minus 800, and again here this strategy 50 minus 200 bet a straddle bet for tomorrow. Its peak profit is 123 minus 900 124. Now it is going towards the bulls here, more bulls. 125 minus 600, it will enter into loss. How far? We went to 122 to 122 C to 125 minus 100, almost to 125 minus 100. So far we came this far. We came this far and came back. Now we can, as I said, we can make a profit following this path. Now up to about 125 minus 700 or even 126. But according to this strategy, we will then enter into a loss. So we will go back to 124, and where is our bottom? 122 minus 300 means the bottom zone, that is, the bottom zone. So this one also sees a break for tomorrow between these two zones and wants to turn off the premium. We have a single block trade of 25 bitcoins, short 125, short call 125, which also saw the ceiling with 125. The number of pips is between 3 to 5 and 8 pips. We have a long put of 140 between this long. The long put trade is seen and again shows the gear. The new view can be, let's go see the liquidity. I will refresh it. Okay, liquidity 24. See, we are now in 24 Kata Hamdad. We have liquidity on the upper side, more than 126,400 liquidity, and the price is also close to the target, and the price is also close to 125,170 liquidity. If we have liquidity, we also have liquidity at the bottom, but there is a gap with the price of 123, which we said was 123,400. In reality, it is starting to go to the swap market. See if it does again. There is liquidity at the top up to 126,500, and there is liquidity at the bottom, more liquidity than liquidity at the bottom up to 122,121. Liquidity from the top is a little closer, so for us, if we continue to move, we can actually expect this way. You saw this above and we came down here. This is the movement up that we made. It can be stopped here. We can go up to about 126. 125, 126 also go, but then probably come to 122, 126 about now. About this scenario, in reality this form of this candlestick Mamadi, we said this candle, if in 2 hours we are in favor of this candlestick Pimber is closed in 4 hours, it can be a signal to continue this movement to the bottom, and if this happens, then this movement, this is a woman, and a real door of the character of this is not created in this process. Profit little and other definitely more BG process new lemon. My corrective, my start that in the first place can be real Assad about 800 to 122 600. We consider this Naira so that the price of the action touches in real. Thank you for your inquiry. I hope that the video has been really useful.